ॐ त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवतां नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णः खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगण्डोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल रघुवंशिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थितगतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। ओम कृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः। Pranams everyone. So far we had done the values that are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. The values that one as an individual should possess are listed out in two different places in Bhagavad Gita. First was in chapter 13 between Slokas 7 to 11, where Bhagavan gave out certain values and he called them as Jnanam. These are the values that one must possess for an individual to be able to understand and assimilate this spiritual knowledge. It started with amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam. And then Bhagavan in the 16th chapter dedicated that entire chapter for the good gunas, the values and the bad characters that one should not have. So he basically classified certain characteristics as Daiva Sampat and certain characteristics as Asura Sampat. And he said Daiva Sampat should be encouraged, we should be able to get into our personality, and Asura values or Asura Sampat or Asura characteristics, we should not have them. If we don't have them, it is good, but we should also take care that it doesn't get into our personality. Then in that same chapter, he also described on what would be the fruit or what would be the benefit of actually, or what would be the gati for a person having either Daiva Sampat or Asura Sampat. And for Daiva Sampat, Bhagavan said this person would be on the spiritual path and therefore be going towards moksha. And for a person who is in Asura Sampat, he would be going or remaining in samsara. And Asura Sampat will not give any kind of happiness in this life also, and an Asura Sampat would take a person to Narakam also. We saw there were 3 gateways to hell: Kama, Krodha, Lobha. These are Asura Sampat which will take a person to hell. Now, after covering these values, we will come back to chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, and from here we will be going sequentially. Now, before we start chapter 1, probably refresh as to why we are doing Bhagavad Gita, what is the significance of this Bhagavad Gita, why do we need this spiritual knowledge, and how does Bhagavad Gita help us. We'll go through that quickly. We would have covered this as part of the introduction to Vedanta classes, and even when we started this session, we would have discussed this. But anyway, I'll just go through this quickly. And for this, again, I want to remind that we will have to have faith or shraddha on 3 things here. One, we should have a shraddha that there is rebirth for each one of us. We are not this body. We all know, but there is something called rebirth that we have to accept it right now. In Bhagavan in the 15th chapter will also say actually how does the life travel between one birth and the next birth. What does it do? That's actually explained in chapter 15. But for the time being, before we start Gita here, let us first have this belief or shraddha that this is not the final life, this is not our first life. And there are various ways to actually prove that this cannot be the first life, provided we have belief or shraddha on Ishvara. So shraddha on Ishvara, shraddha on rebirth or karma is very important. So with that, we'll just start. See, in this world we see a lot of organisms. We see from the microorganisms to large organisms, even larger than human beings. What we all notice that is common across all these Jivarasis, it is that every organism is born one day, it grows, and then it reproduces, and then it dies. This seems to be the stages of life, no matter what the organism is. And then we also have humans as an organism. But human birth is special. Human birth is special because humans have intelligence. We know what is right, we know what is wrong. We have that Viveka Shakti, a little bit of Viveka Shakti already. And we are able to create new things, we are able to change things. We are not patterned. Like animals, for example, what they have been, take a cow for example, what they have been eating 300, 400, 500 years ago, they're still eating the same thing. That's still the grass. Whereas for human beings, we have evolved. We have, from eating raw food from forests, we have come a long way, and we are now creating all these kind of cuisines, different cuisines. So we have this intelligence where we are able to create new things. We also know what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, human birth, because of this intelligence, it is special. Our Shastra says, Jantunam Narajanmam Durlabham. Narajanma Durlabham. It is very rare to get a human body. If we believe in rebirth, then we have to understand that not every birth is going to be a human body for everyone. In this Janma, we have been given a human body. The previous Janma, we need not have. In the next Janma, we need not have. And just because we have got a human body this Janma does not mean that we will be having a human body next Janma also. This has been made very clear in the Shastras. And if you look at the number of Jivarasis, there are about 80 lakh species according to Shastras, and then human being is just one species among them. And if we look at that, the probability of getting a human body is very rare. So we have to understand that it is very rare to get a human body, and therefore we have to make use of it. Make use of it properly. What do we do generally? Whatever, we always look for happiness. We want to be happy. Nobody wants to be sorrow. And we also look for security. What will happen to me tomorrow? What will happen to me in 5 years' time? What will happen to me in old age? There is always this security. There is need for financial security. There is a need for emotional security. There is a need for physical security. And we also want to be at peace. We want to have a calm mind. We don't want to feel agitated. We don't want to have anxiety. But what happens though is, life gives us insecurity. What we think is Shashvatam, what we think is eternal, or what we take it for granted, it goes away from us just like that. Life gives us sorrow, and life gives us pain. Of course, life also gives us pleasure, it also gives us joy. But when we are happy, when we are joyful, we don't think about the sorrow that we might face in life. Old age itself is a big pain. To cope with issues that old age can bring, that itself is a big sorrow, big pain. And when we are happy, we don't think about what will happen tomorrow, what will happen to me in the old age, what will happen to me in the next birth. We don't want to think, we don't think. And this is where Shastras come in and say how to handle life, so that not just your old age, but also your next birth and the birth after next is all streamlined, is all easy for us to accept and work through this life. Now, how to handle life situations, how to take everything that life has to offer, that is where Shastras teaches. That is what Shastras teaches. School, the schools do not teach this. These things are not covered in our education system. Our earlier education system in ancient India, it used to be covered, all these aspects. But in the present day education system, we don't. And why, some people might say, as after all my life is going normal, fine, why should I think about something which is really bad? Why should I think or worry about things that may not happen or might happen? Question is, as I said, there will be joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain. It is always in pairs. Life will give to everyone. Even if he may be the richest man in the world, he will have his painful moments, he will have his sorrowful moments. And even if he is the poorest of the poor, he will have his happiness. It always comes in pairs of opposites. Now, right now, from where we are, we have been given a human birth, and we have got a good family. We are born in a good family. We have got home. We have got some food on the table. We got decent life. And at this point of time, we should make sure that we are also preparing ourselves emotionally, intellectually, for things that might happen later or things that will happen later. And that's why we always bring the story of a king who was asked to rule for 5 years. I'm sure many of you would have heard this story from me before, but I'll just quickly repeat. So there was this kingdom where the king would be selected by the elephant, and he would be made to rule for 5 years. And after 5 years, he will be deported to a forest, deep into the forest, and left there. And he would be invariably killed by all the wild elements. There would be nothing there for him here there, and that's the end of the story for this guy. So this has been the practice in the kingdom. So what happens was, every time a king is actually a commoner was made a king, he would be enjoying the first year, but from second year onwards, the anxiety and the fear that he will have to go to the forest and he will be killed there by wild animals, and that he would have to be alone even if he survives a few days, that was killing them inside. So they lose weight, they don't take care of the kingdom, and invariably on the last day they plead, beg, sometimes even commit suicide. So that's been the story in this kingdom. Then there was this one person who was actually a very poor man who was made a king. The first year he was happy. Then second year also he was not perturbed. And people were looking at how could he be like this, while all others so far had been suffering from inside. But he seemed to be doing well. Third year nothing happened, he was still okay. Fourth year he was fine. Fifth year when they came, he was still fine. On the day that he was asked to be deported or banished from the kingdom, he was very happy to go. And in fact he said, you guys need not even come, I can go on my own. And the reason he said was, even as he took control of the kingdom, he started clearing forests using people there. He started creating housing there. He started putting people there. He started setting up a society there. And now, with all the fort and the walls, and it's another kingdom for him. So when he moves from here to the deep into the forest, he will have his own kingdom there, and he will be the king there. The story seems simple, but the idea that is actually given here is, even when things are going well for us, we should be prepared for the eventuality. If there is somebody who says, I don't think anything actually can move me, at least the death of a loved one can move us. We will not be able to take it. So we will have to prepare ourselves for any kind of eventuality. So as I said, belief, the Shraddha in rebirth, Shraddha in karma is necessary for us to proceed further in this spiritual journey. And typically for a human being, as I said, we are looking for peace, security, happiness. Shastras say that all our pursuits that we do on a day-to-day basis, anything that we do can be classified into 4. These are called Purusharthas, or 4 human goals. Anything that we do is classified into one of these 4, which is Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Artha is basically the basic necessity that we need: food, shelter, clothing. That is called as Artha. Then the moment that we actually get those, then we want to have finer things. We want to have a nice expensive dress, an expensive watch, shoes. We want to go into a restaurant to have delectable food. We want to try varieties of cuisine. So there comes all the Kama. So the moment the Artha gets fulfilled, we go to Kama. We want to listen to nice music. We want to appreciate music. We want to watch drama. We want to watch a movie. We want to go abroad, sightseeing. So those all come under Kama. So once the basic necessity is met, and then we look for pleasures. Then after that, some people or many people would start worrying about old age, next life, next birth. So they try to do some punya. In Tamil we say pora vadikku punyam thedu. In this journey we will have to collect as much punya as possible. So they do dharma. Dharma meaning visiting temples, doing puja, homa, japa, doing charity. All those kind of things come under dharma. And then finally there is something called moksha, liberation, which is to come out of this samsara, which is to come out of this cycle, which not many people endeavor, which not many people are even aware, because for many of them they don't even understand moksha. For some, heaven seems to be moksha. They think heaven is the final destination. So they don't have an understanding of moksha. Even if they may not have heard of moksha. Even if they have heard of moksha, they might have a wrong understanding of it. And even if they have a right understanding of it, they may not even know the right sadhana to get there. So the chances of somebody pursuing moksha is very less. But all our activities can be classified as an activity for one of these 4 goals. Now, in this Artha, Kama, Dharma, for these 3 kinds of activities, Shastra says there are doshas in it. When you do some activities for these purposes, there is a dosha. And the doshas are dukkha mishra-tattva. Whatever action we do for artha, for example, or for kama, there is an amount of sorrow or pain involved in it, either to attain it or to retain it. I have to work hard to be able to earn money so that I can buy the house that I love. So there is an involvement of sorrow or pain in the activity. Of course, we don't mind it because we are more focused on the outcome. But there is definitely a sorrow or pain involved. So dukkha mishra tattva. Then atripti karatva. The problem for us is we are never contented. What could have made us contented 20 years ago, we could have got it 12 years back. But that has not made us stop from achieving more, asking for more, craving for more, desiring for more. If there is a house, I want a bigger house, I want a better house, I want another house, I want a house by the beach, I want a house in another city. If it's a car, I want a bigger car, I want a better car, I want another car. It's jewelry, I want more jewelry, I want that design, this design. So the craving never stops. So that is atripti karatva. Then there is bandha kartatva. Everything binds us, every action binds us. It binds us, it creates raga or dvesha in our mind. It creates a sense of likes or dislike in our mind. So when we do something for the first time, we create a vasana, we create a like for it or a dislike for it. So this artha, kama, dharma, whatever actions we do for that, it has these doshas. The ultimate goal is moksha. And what is moksha? Moksha is knowing myself. That is what moksha is from an Advaitic standpoint, and that is what moksha is, if you ask me. Moksha is knowing who am I. And the understanding is, if I know who am I, and Shastra says, Tattvam asi, you are that, and when I understand that I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, then I know that I am the only person, or only, I cannot say thing, I cannot say a person, I am the only Brahman alone is there in this world. And what we see around are all Maya, and there is nobody other than me in this world. For me to get to that understanding is called moksha. And once I attain the state of moksha, once I understand who am I, then I also understand that there is no need for security, there is no happiness or need for me to look for happiness, there is no need for me to look for peace, because that security, that happiness, that peace is all within me. Now the next question is, what is stopping me from knowing myself? If somebody explains to me, why would I not be able to understand that I am Brahman? What would stop me from knowing myself? Here Shastra says that there are 3 layers of covering. There are 3 problems, 3 layers of covering within us. The first one is malam. Malam means basically dirt. So there is dirt in my mind which is stopping me from knowing the correct thing. So the impure mind, an unclean mind, is the first problem. Then there is vikshepa. Vikshepa means my mind is always not steady. It is chanchalam. It goes here, it goes there. The mind, I am not able to steady my mind on a single thing. It keeps Even when I am doing something, my mind goes elsewhere. Even when I am in this class, my mind goes elsewhere. My mind wants to think what happened last week, what will happen after this class, what should I do next week, what should I do for Monday tomorrow. So the mind is not steady. That is vikshepa. And then there is avaranam or ajnanam. Avaranam or ajnanam is basically the cover. Avaranam means cover. Ajnanam means ignorance. So there is an amount of ignorance in my mind. The ignorance is the ignorance about the self. But the problem for the ignorance about the self is, I think I know who am I, and there seems to be a wrong understanding. And that is called as ajnanam. So, malam, mental extroversion, vikshepaha, restlessness, and avaranam, the cover, or ajnanam, the ignorance, are the three reasons why we are not able to know who am I, who we are. And that is where Shastras come in and say, I will tell you who you are. Shastras, through the Guru, will tell us who we are. Now the question is, when should I come to know? When should I get to know? Is it okay if I come to know at the end of the life? That should be good enough. When should I start pursuing this? As I said before, when the going is good itself. When the going is good, we will have to start on this journey. Because when we have problems in our family, in our mind, around us, it will not help us to focus. Our mind will be elsewhere. That will not be the right time for Vedanta. For understanding, for pursuing Vedanta, our mind should be a little bit calm, a little bit pure. We should have a little bit of all this. We should have overcome a little bit of all these three: malam, vikshepam, and avaranam. Only then we will be able to pursue. And for us to pursue, does the Shastras restrict, saying that only one class of society will have to get this knowledge? Only one gender should get it? Only between these two ages you can actually pursue this? No. There is no age bar. There is no gender bar. There is no caste bar. Everybody is supposed to learn this, know this, and come out of this samsara. And what would happen if I actually pursue this path? I can face my future without fear. There would not be any anxiety in my mind. There would not be any fear of what might happen tomorrow. I can face my future without fear. And why is it? Somebody might say, I'm a brave person. I can face anything in life. After all, I have faced so many difficulties. Why should I pursue this Bhagavad Gita, or why should I do this Vedanta Vichara? I feel that I can overcome all these on my own. Only if it is for the weak. Some people might argue that. Now, we have this example here in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna. Arjuna was the most successful person. Not just at that point of time, even in today's terms, at any point in the history of our mankind, Arjuna could be one of the top most successful persons that you can ever see. He was a prince. He had money. He is rich. He was brave. He was extremely brave. He could fight armies alone, single-handedly. He was handsome. A lot of women following around for him. So he was rich, he was famous. Wherever he went, everybody wanted to be associated with Arjuna. Everybody wanted to be known as, I know Arjuna, kind of thing. He was highly skilled. It was not that everything was handed over to him in a platter. He He had the skill in archery. He had the skill. He had won lot of wars. He had credibility. He had lots of friends. He had lots of admirers. And for that kind of a person who single-handedly could defeat the Kaurava army on his own if he wants, he faltered in the battlefield. He could not take a moment in life where he couldn't handle it with all the whatever he had. He did a Sharanagati to Bhagavan. So if it is needed for that kind of a person, then what about us? What about us? We may also be a little bit brave. We may also be a little bit rich. We also know a few people there. Some of our others know us, so we are a bit famous as well. We are also skilled, though not as much as Arjuna. We also may have our friends and admirers. We are also ticking the box, but not as much. But in spite of this, we are not happy. We are not happy. And when somebody says, "How are you?" we say, "Yeah, I'm doing good." And if we just let a pause there and allow the person to speak a little further, if the person has that kind of connect with you, they may just open up and say what are the problems that they face. So everybody individually, everybody has got some problem or other. They are not happy. There is insecurity around financial matters, around emotional matters, around health. There is some anxiety about children's future, about our future and others. There is some kind of a discontentment always. If only, a lot of people feel, if only I had taken up that job, if only I had married that person, if only I had got that house, if only I had said no there. So there is always this discontentment. So these are the problems that we face, and what Shastras do is Shastras try to explain step by step in terms of how to handle life. It helps us to build our knowledge of everything that is necessary for us, which is our own self, Ishvara, and this world. So we need to have an understanding of who is Ishvara, how am I related to him, why is he there, what is he supposed to do, how am I to relate with him, what is this world about, what can I expect from this world, what can I not expect from this world, and who am I, why was I born, what am I supposed to do, where is my end goal, where should I, what path should I take. This is where Bhagavad Gita comes and explains to us. So Bhagavan has, so you know where Bhagavad Gita was, right? Bhagavad Gita was actually given in Mahabharata, and Mahabharata itself, if you know, was actually the first narration of Mahabharata happened when Rishi Vaishampayana, he gave it to Janamejaya. You know, the Raja Janamejaya was the son of Parikshit. And when the yajna was happening, Vaishampayana went to Janamejaya and narrated this Mahabharata. And within this Mahabharata comes this Bhagavad Gita. Mahabharata itself is about 1 lakh slokas, 100,000 slokas, of which Bhagavad Gita is 700. And in Bhagavad Gita, it was given in the battlefield by Bhagavan to Arjuna when Arjuna refused to fight the war. And Arjuna refuses to fight the war, does Sharanagati. Krishna, Bhagavan advises Arjuna gives him the Bhagavad Gita, then Arjuna fights the war. And here again, people misinterpret, saying that, this is a book which incites war. After all, after listening to Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna fought the war. So they misinterpret or misrepresent this book to be one that incites war. Actually, it is not. We will see that. And this Bhagavad Gita, maybe Bhagavan could have given this Bhagavad Gita in prose form, as in Samvada. But Vyasa, who had written this Mahabharata, who was also then written this Bhagavad Gita, had given it in poetic form. And this whole Bhagavad Gita is divided into 18 chapters. Again, it is not divided by Bhagavan. Bhagavan could have said continuously. Then Vyasa could have divided that into 18. And the 18 chapters, the names of these 18 chapters were not given by Vyasa. It was given by later Acharyas. Like for example, Arjuna Vishada Yoga is the first chapter. And Arjuna Vishada Yoga is not the name given by Arjuna. Sankhya Yoga is the second chapter. The 13th chapter we did was Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. The 16th chapter we did was Daiva Asura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. So all these names were given by later Acharyas. And in the first chapter, Bhagavan does not talk at all. In fact, the Gita Upadesha. Gita Upadesha starts only in this second chapter, Sloka 11. And therefore, Shankaracharya, Bhagavad-pada, he did not actually write, he doesn't write commentary until that. So he writes commentary only from chapter 2 verse 11. But first chapter and chapter until verse 10 of chapter 2 is what we call the introduction, setting the scene. And it is important, still important for us, because it gives us the foundation for the Gita to take place. We understand under what circumstances was this Gita given. And personally for us, when we actually explain this, we will understand the two purposes behind these chapter 1. Chapter 1, the first purpose is we get a basic or a better understanding of the problem of samsara. What is this basic problem of samsara? And how has Arjuna got affected by it? And the second thing is, in most of our scriptures, there will be always a Guru Sishya Samvada. Guru Sishya, it's just like an FAQ. And here also in the chapter 1, it introduces, or chapter 2 probably, early chapter 2, we'll have an introduction of Guru and Sishya. Basically, Bhagavan and Arjuna. And when I say samsara, what is this samsara? Samsara is a universal problem. Samsara is not just because it's a term, it's a Sanskrit term, it is not only applicable for Indians, or it is only applicable for Hindus. It is a universal problem. It is irrespective of nationality, the varna that we are in, the religion that we are in, the gender that we are in, the age we are in, the ashrama that we are in, brahmacharya ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, grihastha ashrama or sannyasa, irrespective of whatever we are, wherever we are, samsara is relevant. We are in samsara. And this is the basic problem. So it is not that the samsara was there in Arjuna's time and this samsara is not there in present day times. Or it is there only in the present day times. In the past, people did not have any samsara or the problem of samsara. It is not that like that. The problem is a common. What Arjuna faced 5,000 years ago, it is still relevant. Not only it is still relevant now, it will still be relevant for future generations also. And this is a fundamental problem. It is a disease that affects humans. And we say Bhava Roga, we say Samsara Roga. It's a Samsara disease. And what is the remedy for this disease? What is the medication? What is the solution? The solution for this is moksha. There is no other solution. All other solutions may look, even bhakti for example, or even say service, or even meditation. All these things could be giving temporary relief from the problem of samsara. But if we want a lasting solution, if we want a permanent solution, if we don't want a band-aid solution, then it is moksha. So what happens in the first chapter, Vyasa basically gives a problem statement. He gives a problem statement in chapter 1. In today's terms we can say problem statement, and then he gives the answers in the 17 chapters after which. And because of, and the Bhagavad Gita touches upon or talks about moksha, therefore it is also called as Moksha Sastra. Sorry, Ashish ji, you have a question?
Yeah, Guruji, just connecting the two things, you earlier mentioned that, the moksha is nothing but developing the knowledge or getting the knowledge that who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, correct me if my understanding is wrong, but Bhakti Marg gives you the ability to forget yourself and fully dedicate everything to Bhagwan or Ishtadev, whosoever you are dedicated to. Now, if I have forgotten myself and fully accepted the Supreme, does that also mean moksha?
Well, I mean, there are schools of thought which will say yes, but Advaita and our school of thought definitely no, because you still are different from Bhagavan, which means I am different from Bhagavan. So there is another entity other than me, and if I am other than Bhagavan, the next person, he cannot be with Bhagavan, he is different from me. So there is another entity. So there are multiple entities now. Then with these multiple entities there, obviously there is, wherever there are two things, transactions will happen. Wherever there are transactions, there are all these problems will arise. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsaryam, all these things will happen or will come up whenever there are two entities. The two minds, when I am talking about two different things, there are problems definitely that will arise. At the time of when I am deeply engrossed with Bhagavan, of course, I don't have any problems. Just like when I am deeply meditating, I am doing meditation every day. During the time of meditation, I don't even recognize myself, and I am deep in meditation. There is no problem there. There is no samsara there. Similarly, when I am joyfully thinking about Ishvara, about my Ishta Devata, there is no sense of me there at all, and therefore I am fully immersed with Bhagavan. There is no problem there. There is no samsara there. But the moment I come out, I have a problem. It is the same way as when I am in deep sleep. Every night when I go to deep sleep, I don't even know who am I. I don't know whether I am a male or a female. I don't know what my age is. I don't know where I live. I don't know what am I doing, what have I studied. There is no other entity to transact. So at the deep sleep stage, I don't have any samsara. I am happy, blissfully happy. Ignorant about myself, but blissfully ignorant. What Advaita says, what our Vedanta Shastra says, this bliss that you face during or you have during deep meditation, when you are deeply engrossed in bhakti or when you are in deep sleep, that you should be able to feel even when you are awake, even when you are transacting with others, even when you are dealing with this world. And that is where, and that is how can I get it? Only if I know who am I. Only if I know who the real I is. Okay?
Yeah, and so in a way that will happen when I realize that I am the same, which is the Brahma, and that is what all bodies around me are. So I am I, you are I, that is also me, and hence the transaction becomes superfluous for you, and that's where the bliss comes from.
Yes, you can say that. But what actually it means is, I am this Brahman in which this lower I, the one that I associate with this body and mind complex, is also there. Just like in my dream, okay, don't take, whenever in Vedanta, whenever in Shastras, whenever we give an example, the example has to be taken with, for that particular aspect alone. So here I am saying, giving you an example. In the dream world, I am able to create myself. I am also able to create others. In the dream, these people appear, these people transact, and these people disappear. I am not affected by it. In the dream, there is an I who has been, I don't know, is fearful, is full of anxiety, is having pain, has got into an accident. Whatever happens, there seems to be a lot of pain and sorrow and tears. But the I who is actually sleeping and dreaming at the same time, that person is not affected. The dream I is a different order of reality. Now, in the same manner, don't take it literally though, this Brahman is a single entity in which you, me, the others, Ishvara are all there. And what I have to do is to realize that I am not this person who is transacting here, but I am that I which is the sustaining entity for this whole Jagat. And that I would be able to understand, assimilate, make it my personality, then I will be able to deal. Then I will be in bliss. Now, for me to get to that knowledge, to that level of understanding, there are certain sadhanas that Shastras prescribe. If we follow that sadhanas, we will be able to realize the real I. Because you asked the question, I had to go to a higher plateau or higher level. I don't know how well A, I have explained, B, whether how well people have been able to understand. But as we go through this journey, you will be able to appreciate it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
But one thing is for sure, as long as I hold on to this body and mind as me, I will never be able to realize the higher me. And that's where the sadhanas are all towards that, towards reducing our attachment towards this body, attachment to this mind. We always attach I am, this is me, this is mine. As long as I am holding on to that, I will never be able to realize that I am Brahman. And all our sadhanas are, is about helping us to remove this attachment slowly from the outer world first, then slowly towards our own body and our own mind. So samsara, that is the problem for us. And what is the samsara? Samsara problem is, as I said, the fundamental problem, the problem that all humans face. So this problem can be, different. Some of the diseases, if you see, can be described by different people with differently. For example, by different systems. For example, allopathy doctor, when you go and meet them, he will say you have jaundice, or you have cancer, or you have BP or sugar. That is how they actually classify the diseases. The same body, when it goes to the Ayurvedic doctor, then he will say, in the context of principles of, you got pittam, or kapam, or vatam. So he will classify that in that sense. The same disease, same problem, but have different representation. Similarly, the scripture presents this basic universal problem called samsara. It explains it in different formats, in different contexts. So the samsara problem, many a times I would have used this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam is samsara. That is how I would have explained in many places. In the context of chapter 1, Vyasacharya explains this in a particular fashion, and he says samsara is a combination of 3 diseases, he will say, or 3 symptoms or 3 syndromes, and it is not just one problem. He would classify that as, it's a combination of raga, shoka and moha. Raga is attachment, shoka is sorrow, moha is delusion. Raga, shoka and moha. So what is this raga, what is this shoka, what is this moha? We will see that a little bit of detail in the next class, and in the next class hopefully we should be able to start on the first chapter, first sloka. Any questions or comments? Okay. If not, we will again meet in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.